World War I, also known as the Great War, was one of the most devastating conflicts in human history. From 1914 to 1918, it involved many of the world's major powers and resulted in immense loss of life, destruction, and social upheaval. Central to the war were several key battles that defined the course of the conflict. These battles not only reflected the military strategies of the time, but also revealed the human cost of modern warfare. This video explores 7 of the most significant battles of World War I: the Battle of the Marne, Battle of Verdun, Battle of the Somme, Gallipoli Campaign, Battle of Passchendaele, the German Spring Offensive, and the 100 Days Offensive. The Battle of the Marne, fought from September 6th to 12th, 1914, was the first major battle of World War I and marked a turning point in the early stages of the war. Following Germany's implementation of the Schlieffen Plan, a strategy designed to quickly defeat France before turning east to fight Russia, German forces advanced rapidly through Belgium and northern France. By early September, they were on the outskirts of Paris, seemingly on the brink of victory. However, the Allied forces, consisting mainly of the French army and the British Expeditionary Force, managed to regroup and launch a counteroffensive along the Marne River. Utilizing railway systems to move troops quickly, and aided by effective intelligence on German movements, the Allies struck the exposed right flank of the German army. A gap between German armies was exploited, forcing a retreat. The outcome of the battle was decisive in stopping the German advance. It ended hopes of a quick German victory and forced the Germans to dig in, setting the stage for trench warfare. The Miracle of the Marne, as it came to be known, saved France from occupation and prolonged the war into a drawn-out and brutal stalemate. The Battle of Verdun, fought from February to December 1916, is remembered as one of the longest and bloodiest battles in history. Located in northeastern France, Verdun was a symbol of French national pride and a heavily fortified area. The German strategy, led by General Erich von Falkenhayn, aimed to bleed France white by launching an offensive that would compel the French to commit large numbers of troops to defend it, thereby suffering heavy casualties. The French, under the command of General Philippe Pétain, adopted the slogan, "They shall not pass, ils ne passeront pas," and committed to defending Verdun at all costs. The battle quickly became one of attrition, with each side pouring men and material into the fight. Artillery bombardments were relentless, and soldiers on both sides endured unimaginable suffering in the trenches. Over 700,000 casualties were recorded, with no significant territorial gains for either side. While the French ultimately held Verdun, the battle came to symbolize the senseless slaughter of the war. It also deeply influenced French military and civilian morale, reinforcing the need to hold out against German aggression no matter the cost. The Battle of the Somme, fought from July to November 1916, was intended to be a massive Allied offensive aimed at breaking through German lines in northern France. Initially planned as a joint British-French operation, the burden fell heavily on British forces after the Battle of Verdun drained French resources. The offensive began with a week-long artillery bombardment intended to destroy German defences. However, the bombardment failed to neutralize German machine gun positions. On July 1st, when the infantry assault began, British troops were mowed down in massive numbers. That first day alone saw nearly 60,000 British casualties, the worst day in British military history. The battle dragged on for months, characterized by grinding trench warfare, muddy conditions and limited progress. Tanks were introduced for the first time, but their impact was limited due to mechanical issues and difficult terrain. By the end of the battle, the Allies had advanced only a few miles, at the cost of over 1 million casualties on both sides. The Somme became a symbol of the futility and horror of World War I and left a lasting legacy in British and Commonwealth memory. The Gallipoli campaign was a bold and ultimately unsuccessful attempt by the Allied powers to open a new front in the war by capturing the Dardanelles Strait and Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. The idea was to knock the Ottoman Empire out of the war, relieve pressure on the Eastern Front, and secure a supply route to Russia. Launched in April 1915, the campaign involved landings on the Gallipoli Peninsula by British, French, Australian and New Zealand troops, Anzacs. The terrain was rugged and heavily defended by well-prepared Ottoman forces led by Mustafa Kemal, later known as Ataturk. From the start, the campaign was plagued by poor planning, logistical failures and underestimation of the enemy. The Allied troops found themselves trapped on narrow beaches under constant fire, with little room to maneuver. Conditions were horrific. Heat, flies, disease and inadequate supplies made life miserable for the soldiers. After months of stalemate and mounting casualties, the Allies evacuated in January 1916. The campaign resulted in over 250,000 casualties on both sides and is remembered as a tragic failure. For the Ottomans, it was a major victory. And for countries like Australia and New Zealand, Gallipoli became a defining moment in their national consciousness. Also known as the Third Battle of Ypres, the Battle of Passchendaele took place from July to November 1917 in the Flanders region of Belgium. The objective was to break through German lines and capture the ridge around the village of Passchendaele. The battle was championed by British commander Sir Douglas Haig as a way to relieve pressure on the French and wear down German forces. What followed was one of the most infamous slogs of the war. The region had been turned into a swamp by shell fire and heavy rain, making movement nearly impossible. Mud swallowed men, horses and equipment alike. Despite small gains, the offensive became another symbol of attrition warfare, with little strategic value achieved. By the end of the battle, the Allies had advanced only a few miles at the cost of an estimated 500,000 casualties. Passchendaele remains one of the most haunting reminders of the horrors of trench warfare. As Russia exited the war following the Bolshevik Revolution, Germany was able to shift many troops from the Eastern Front to the West. In March 1918, Germany launched the Spring Offensive, also known as the Ludendorff Offensive, a series of attacks aimed at defeating the Allies before American troops could arrive in significant numbers. The offensive began with Operation Michael, a powerful assault through the Somme region. Using new infiltration tactics and stormtrooper units, the Germans made rapid advances, capturing more territory in weeks than had been gained in years. British and French lines buckled and panic spread. However, logistical challenges, exhaustion and fierce Allied resistance eventually slowed the German advance. As the offensive progressed, German casualties mounted and strategic cohesion weakened. The initial success could not be sustained and the Allies began to regroup. Beginning in August 1918, the 100 Days Offensive marked the final phase of World War I. Following the failure of the German Spring Offensive, the Allies, now bolstered by fresh American troops and superior logistics, launched a series of coordinated attacks along the Western Front. The offensive began with the Battle of Amiens on August 8th, which General Ludendorff described as the Black Day of the German Army. Utilizing surprise, tanks and air power, Allied forces broke through German lines with unprecedented speed. Unlike previous battles, the Allies avoided frontal assaults on entrenched positions and instead employed mobile, combined arms tactics. Over the next several months, the Allies pushed the Germans back across a broad front. Key victories included the Second Battle of the Somme, the breaking of the Hindenburg Line, and the liberation of occupied territory in France and Belgium. German morale collapsed and desertions increased. The cumulative pressure forced the German High Command to seek an armistice. On November 11, 1918, the guns finally fell silent. The 100 Days Offensive had achieved what years of trench warfare could not, a decisive end to the conflict. The major battles of World War I illustrate the evolution of modern warfare, from early mobile engagements to the grim realities of trench fighting, and finally to the combined arms tactics that would define later conflicts. Each battle carried immense human cost and left a legacy that shaped nations, military thinking, and the collective memory of the 20th century. The Battle of the Marne prevented a swift German victory. Verdun and the Somme exemplified the horrors of attrition warfare. Gallipoli was a case study in strategic failure. Passchendaele underscored the futility of frontal assaults. The Spring Offensive was a desperate gamble that drained German strength. And the 100 Days Offensive proved that coordinated modern tactics could finally bring an end to the war. Together, these battles offer sobering lessons on leadership, sacrifice, and the true cost of global conflict. Please like and subscribe for more historical content.